I can't wait to ask him about everything that's going on. And the big Kaner is in the house.
Hey guys,
what's up? What's up?
Not much.
How the hell are you feeling right now, Kaner? I mean, you got to be on cloud nine. Seriously, excited but nervous. What are the emotions going through you right now? Obviously, it's off. You got a week in between series, the time to sit back, relax. But what are the emotions right now, getting back to the dance?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm really excited. I feel really good. I think obviously obviously LA was tough. Taking care of Vegas in 5 helped. Taking care of Dallas in 5, I think that really helps. Going into a battle with Florida again. For me specifically, it's a lot different from last year. I'm healthy. I'm not wondering if I can even get ready for game 1, and what I'm going to be like. So completely different mindset, and really just thankful that I get to have another opportunity to actually contribute in a real way this time. And our team has an opportunity to get a win finally.
You know what, Kaner, that was going to be my first question. Thanks for doing this morning. I know you got 3 little ones that are running around the house, probably eating pancakes or whatever they're eating for breakfast right now. So I appreciate you doing this, but I wanted to talk to you about that, because you kind of told JR and I last year it was a hernia problem that you had to get like needles put into your pubic area. The whole thing sounded absolutely disgusting. How painful was it for you last year, even trying to play in the Stanley Cup Finals? And that's why I'm so excited for you this year, because you're in the game. You're a big part of that team. You're a big part of the power, everything.
God, not having them last year was a huge deficit for that.
Because, buddy, I know you didn't get the goals in the last round, but I text you a few times. You played awesome. You played awesome.
He had a pretty big goal in the last game, buddy. Let me tell you, get it off and running.
What's the difference? Like how much pain were you in last year?
Yeah, I mean, it was, for me not to be able to play at that time of the year on that stage. Obviously, it was, if you had to wheel me in, I'd play, but I couldn't go. The first 2 games I did play, were really tough.
Yeah.
Game 1 was probably the best I felt, but, it lasted all of warm up. And then it started to kind of wear off, and then we would kind of re-inject and try to settle it down, and it never got to that same feeling. So yeah, I mean, it was difficult physically and painful physically, but it was also probably even more painful mentally.
Right.
Not, especially game 7. I think me and Sam Gagner were just literally pacing up and down the hallway for 2 straight hours, just losing our minds. So. Not fun, not fun at all. So I'm hoping this year is a completely different story.
What's the attitude in the locker room? Obviously, what you said, getting rid of Dallas in 5 games, which was so impressive. By the way, Dallas was looking so good. Yeah, looking so good.
Yeah,
I mean, so good. What's the feeling like? Obviously, the sense of urgency has got to be huge after last year, going to 7 games, almost pulling off one of the biggest comebacks in sports history. How's this team different going into this year than last year?
Yeah, well, I was just talking with my wife. It was like, we kind of know what to expect now. We've been there before. We know how the Stanley Cup Final, in terms of the production of it all, works. There's really nothing that we're going to be surprised by. And a lot of that too is, just even off the ice, the media day and travel and family and tickets and, everybody coming out of the woodwork for the final.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, part of it.
Speaking of that, can you get JR and I 2 tickets for game 1?
Well, as NHL alumni, I'm sure you guys can figure that out yourselves. No?
I'll squeak a couple tickets somewhere. Don't you worry about that.
No, but I think the mindset of our team is, look, we got there last year. Obviously, we didn't get off to a great start in that series, getting down 3-0. But we showed a lot of resolve and fighting back and giving ourselves a chance to win. We lost by a goal. We know Florida's a really good hockey team. We know we're a really good hockey team. And, I think wanting to get off to a good start in this series is going to be very important for us. It's been important throughout this playoff. We learned that lesson against LA in the first round, getting down 0-2. And, we are a focused, confident group who has a lot of confidence and belief. And, we've kind of been through it all in the last 2 years in terms of, adversity and whatnot. So, I think we're more than ready, and probably more ready this time around than we were last year.
You said something very important in the beginning of your answer. You talked about all the distractions. The travel is a major haul.
Yeah.
How much does knowing what that travel is going to be like for you allows you guys to be more prepared, or is the travel that much harder? Because that's a long ways to go between games and short period of time.
Yeah, and if you look at our schedule, we play game 2, and then we have the 2 days off. Play Monday. There's another 2 days off in Florida, and then we play Thursday. If there's a game 5, you leave Friday morning, you play Saturday night again. So, just, I don't know. I think guys, me in particular, even though I only played the first 2 games last year, I think I just feel a lot more relaxed. We know the schedule. What do you do on the road in between games? How you handle that? It's obviously, Jerry, it's tough. The emotions of a series, whether you win or whether you lose, and having that time in between, it can be positive or it can be not so positive. Yeah. So just managing, those emotions. I think we have obviously the experience to do that now, and I think we're just looking forward to game 1. I mean, this city's going to be rocking.
Wow, can't wait.
I got to be honest and tell me if you agree or not. Like, I honestly thought that Dallas series had 6-7 games written all over it before it started. It's almost like you guys swept them, even though you lost game 1, but you're up 3-1 and some penalties, and you took a high stick and penalty. There was another high stick. There was like 3 or 4. Just it kind of snowballed, and they got some momentum. Were you guys? You got to look back a little bit and say, I'm kind of surprised we beat them in 4 straight. Like, they're a good hockey team.
Yeah, I mean, Dallas is an incredible team. You look at them on paper, even going in the playoffs, saying, "Holy cow!" Like,
right?
They have like a first line, and then they have 3 second lines almost. It was
right.
Like they're incredibly deep. Great goalie. In Vegas, the same thing. I mean, LA was just as tough as any of those teams, to be honest. Like, they were very deep as well, and they played fast and hard, and they got some really good young players. But, at the end of the day, like, I think just we have such a belief in our group, and we know what we're capable of. And, we know as good as other teams may be, we're a really hard team to beat 4 times in 7 games. Yeah. And, what I really liked about the way we've gone through the playoffs so far is our killer instinct. When we get teams on the rope, we put them away. We don't let things linger. And I think that, we got down 2-0 against LA. We come back, win 4 straight. Vegas, we get 2 in their building, set ourselves up for, a successful series. We get those split at home and then finish them off again in their home building. And, Dallas, we were pissed off after game 1. We knew we let a game slip away, and we understand how important it is to be able to get a split on the road. And if you can get game 1, you give yourself an opportunity to get game 2. And now it's a whole different ball game. So, we weren't happy with that. And I thought we came out, especially in game 2, and really took it to them. And we took care of home ice, which any good team that's going to have success in the playoffs, you need to be able to do. And, again, we got a team down 3-0, and we put them away. And just the killer instinct of our group, I think has served us well throughout the playoffs so far.
Yeah, how big do you think that was game 5 for you guys? Because you knew that Florida just took care of Carolina in 5 games. Mm-hmm. So they were going to get some rest. Was there a lot of conversation saying, guys, listen, we got to get this thing done tonight. We don't want to play 6 or 7 against a tough team and have to go back into Florida. So
I mean, we knew obviously Florida had won the night before. it was looking like they were going to take care of business, obviously being up 3-1 or 3-0 at the time. And then, once we got up 3-1, you don't want to give teams life. And I'd be honest, it's just human nature. You don't want to look ahead, but you do have thoughts when you're sitting in your hotel room by yourself. You're thinking, okay, we're going to play Florida, but we still have one big game against Dallas, and that's always the hardest game to close a team out. So, you're fighting with your brain a little bit, looking ahead, but also staying in the moment, realizing there's still business to be taken care of. So I thought we did a really good job of that. Obviously, we came out and got up 3-0 early in their building, and we're a team that likes to learn from our past mistakes, and we didn't want to let that lead slip away like we did in game one. So every time they kind of had a push, we responded, and we punched our ticket to the final.
What I find most impressive too is that you guys don't seem to have a problem scoring 3-4 goals a game, but I think everybody's been surprised by how well defensively you guys have played. Guys like Troy Stetcher, Wallman, without Ekholm in the lineup, like those guys really stepped up, Keener. Like your defensive game has been incredible.
Yeah. I mean, our decor has been really good. You got guys like that kind of came into the playoffs or returned into the playoffs. Klingberg, Stetcher, Wally. He was hurt a little bit at the end of the year. And obviously the rest of the guys, like, they just really elevated their game, especially Klinger. We didn't know kind of if he was going to even be able to play again this year. And I think he's been a real boost for our group and has given us another puck-moving guy, smart player, sees the ice well. But yeah, like we don't get a lot of credit for how well we play defensively, how hard we play. Everybody always looks to, Dry and Davo and they just think offense skill. But, those guys play, just as hard as anybody at both ends of the ice. And, so does the rest of our group. And, you see the desperation, you see the shot blocking, you see guys, making it difficult, altering scoring chances. Just as JR, one little slash on the stick or change of an angle can disrupt a grade A scoring chance. And we just continue to push and make it difficult on teams to find the back of our net. And obviously we got great goaltending throughout the entire series as well. Stu was huge for us.
Yeah, your desperation as a team per individual is so impressive. Your games up in Edmonton against Dallas, they had nothing. They literally looked like they were in a different league. Like you guys were so much better all around defensively than offensively, and it's almost like they didn't even have a shot, and you just took care of them so easily like that. But the biggest difference that I think for me is how focused in and how good Skinner has played and how he played the last 5 or 6 games. I mean, you lost game 1 against Dallas with some, a couple of tough goals, power plays, penalty kills was tough, but Skinner's he's in another world right now. So it's got to be really good as a team getting in front of a guy who's playing like that right now and giving you guys the confidence. And he did it last year, and here he is doing it again. And he's taking a lot of heat, but then he comes back and it's like, boom, here I am.
Yeah, no, he's able to shake off, if he has a tough stretch or, a tough game, he's able to shake it off relatively quickly and focus on the task at hand. And, if you look at our goaltending, we got a guy who's on our bench who's 6-0 in the playoffs, and we got a guy who's on a great heater. So, we as a team and as a group have all the confidence in the world in both of our goalies. And, they're both big reasons why, we are in the Cup Final again this year. And, they're going to be big reasons on if we can get the job done this year.
I was texting with a couple Edmonton reporters when Hyman got hurt, and when we found out that I assume it's a wrist. I don't know what it is, but I look at the depth that you guys have this year compared to last year. You got Jeff Skinner, who's played 1,078 regular season NHL games, and he's now played in 2 Stanley Cup playoff games and has scored. And then you got Arvidsson. You guys it sucks that Hyman's hurt, but you guys have guys that can step up now that maybe you didn't have last year.
Yeah, obviously Himes is a huge part of our group, and is leading the way physically in the entire playoffs, and he has that knack for scoring big goals, which obviously is incredibly important in the postseason, and is tough to replace.
Yeah.
But
He's got to be devastated too. He's got to be devastated.
yeah, and he's a strong-minded guy, and he's a smart guy, and he's a tough guy as well, and mentally tough. And I messaged him the next morning before I got on the plane, and just kind of reaching out to let him know I was thinking about him. He's going for his wrist surgery, and I know how tough it is to miss a Stanley Cup final and the opportunity to win, but either way, he's a big part of it, whether he's on the ice or off the ice. So, but yeah, to back to your point in terms of our depth, Timmy, we got guys that can play up and down the lineup, that are out of the lineup, that can play up in the lineup. So, you need that obviously to win, and it's no more evident than it is right now losing Himes. So to be able to have guys come in, Arvidsson, Skins, as you mentioned, we got guys like Derek Ryan and Max Jones too, still not in the lineup, but capable guys that can come in and contribute. It's huge. And the same thing said with our decor. A guy like Troy Stetcher has been playing incredibly well the entire playoffs. But then you have a guy, who's finally healthy, who maybe we're a little surprised to have back, and Eki, as one of our best defensemen. So it's great to have that type of depth.
Yeah, and I just love the makeup of the team. I think the grittiness of your team right now is exactly what you need going up against a team like Florida, who I think has really changed the mentality of how playoff games need to be played, right? Tough, physical, in your face, finishing checks, hard as a team, somewhat yippy and get in your face and have an attitude. There's no question about it. But you guys have everything to match that. And you have probably one of the chippiest, one of the most grizzled, cagey vets still left in the game, and he's scoring goals like crazy. A 40-year-old Corey Perry, like what the hell is this guy eating, playing as well as he is? And I'm a big Corey Perry fan, so I just love him. But he used to be hated in Edmonton. Now he's like one of the golden boys, and he's producing. He's got 7 goals in the playoffs. He's 40 years old. Like what's it? What's it
age
like?
Age is just a number. I mean, everybody wants.
That's bullshit, man. That's bullshit. I played at 39. I could barely get up and down the ice. He's doing great things, man.
Well, it's funny. Everybody's looking for youth and young and young and young. But, if you look at, I think we're the oldest team in the league. You know what I mean? We're back to back in the Cup Finals. So it's like, you definitely need players, like true NHL players, and you need a lot of them in order to win. And you need experience, and there's nobody more experienced on our team than Corey Perry. And obviously, the one thing you don't lose is you don't lose your touch and your feel. And he's always been a guy that's been around the net. He scores a lot of his goals in and around the net, right? So,
what's he like? What's he like? Like in the he's got to be. He's got to bring a sense of calm in that locker room too. I know what that personality is.
Yeah, I mean. Look, he brings a sense of calm, but I think he also brings some fire as well, which is good. We try to bring that, and get me back in the room as well. Just bringing some energy, bringing some fire, bringing a little bit extra life and juice to the room and on the ice. I think it allows other guys to. And frees them up mentally a little bit more. It keeps the other team on their toes.
100%.
And it's the game within the game. It's nice to have multiple guys on the team that have that same type of mentality, because it's a lot harder for refs, as Timmy, to key on. If everybody's doing it, right. Well, what do I, how do I call a guy for hitting a guy maybe a little too hard when everybody's doing it? But if it's just one guy, it sticks out like a sore thumb, and it's like, maybe there was something wrong with that.
Which is Florida. It's a pack mentality with Florida, right?
Yeah. And Florida, like they're a team where I think they've really taken on the identity of their head coach. I think Paul Maurice. I played for him in Winnipeg. And know what he's like as a coach. They really just taken on that identity, and I think that's a big reason, why they have that type of mentality. And for our group, I think, we have the personnel that naturally just kind of plays that way to a degree. And, as we've talked about, we can play any game you want.
Mm-hmm. You should pull. Hey, Kaner, this is a great. I just thought of this. You should pull a Four Nations opening night and fucking drop the gloves and just start pounding on somebody. I mean, that Edmonton crowd's going to be fired up, but if you did that, oh my God, they'd lose their minds. But listen, it kind of gets into my next question. How are you guys going to deal with? Listen, I would take him on my team every day. Every team would love to have a Sam Bennett. He ran into Stolarz in the first series. Last series, he accidentally ran into Anderson again in the crease, or whoever the goalie was. Kind of similar plays. I guarantee you, this series is going to be nasty. It is going to be nasty. I cannot wait. How do you guys kind of fight back with that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think kind of what I touched on earlier. I think, they have players that like to play gritty, physical, in-your-face type of game. And, we have more than enough guys that can match that, no problem. I definitely have that belief in our group. And, somebody asked me in the Dallas series, a reporter, they were saying, is this physical? Is this series, maybe not as physical as Vegas or LA? And I said, it doesn't really matter what other teams do, whether they're physical or not. We're going to play a certain brand of hockey. And that's just what it is. If another team doesn't want to hit us, great, fantastic.
Right.
That sounds great. But, if another team is playing their game, that's fine. We're going to play our game. And
how do you deal with that though, Kaner? Like, because you're a multi-dimensional player. Like, you can do it all. You can score goals. You can make plays. You can hit. You can fight. You can intimidate. You can do all that stuff. And going into a series that is going to be really difficult, not only to get the job done, but physically, it's going to be a lot of verbal stuff going on, a lot of yelling back and forth. Yep. You're a guy that loves to get engaged. You're a guy that sometimes loves to instigate. And how, like, you're going into this, and you got Bennett over there, you got Ekblad over there, you got Matthew Tkachuk over there. All those guys love to chirp, right? They love to chirp. How do you control kind of your excitement and how you're going to be playing? But you're so important to this Edmonton team. Having you in this lineup changes your whole dynamics. But I can see you just wanting to go in there and like take over everything, and you can't.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely want to play with energy. I think playing those guys last year, having obviously, a guy like Tkachuk, we played him, and I don't know if Bennett was on the team at the time, but them in Calgary in the postseason. So, we had, I played Florida a lot when I was in Buffalo, and both teams didn't like each other quite a bit, and they have, the Ekblads and a bunch of the same guys that they still have on that team. So, we're very familiar with a lot of their players and how they are. And I think just trying to push the right buttons out there at the right times. And that's kind of like the game within the game that, they do a really good job of as well. But, we have some guys such as myself and Pears and, even a guy like Podkolzin, he's a fighter.
I was going to ask you about this kid.
He's a workhorse.
Look, I got him right here. Like, I have him on my phone because I wanted to make sure I said his name right. And it's not because he stands out but he's a gamer. Like he's in people's faces. He's roughing people up. He's chirping at people.
There's no fear. There's no fear in his game. There's no fear in his game, and he works just as hard as anybody I've ever played with. And he's like a bull in a china shop. And this is a series that there's going to be a few bulls in there. So I think he's going to be especially with a guy like Hyman going down, just that element of the game. He could really step up and be a big contributor.
I brought up Bennett, and I just had a flashback to, I think it was game 3 or 4 when you guys were playing Vegas, and you guys had Aiden Hill so off his game in that first period. Do you remember that? You
How
kind
can I
of
forget, Tim? I got bulldozed into him.
yeah, I know you got a goalie interference penalty and the guy shoved you in, but it was like, and then Hyman was in there. It was like that 10 minutes of hockey. You could just tell you guys were in his head so much, and that's what I love about this team now. But one thing I wanted to ask you is last year, like you said, it was new. You know, a lot of it, you didn't know what to expect. You're in Florida for game one. Now you've got home ice advantage, and that Edmonton crowd, man, like Kaner, they're probably the best fans you've ever played in front of, right? Like, not to take anything away from the other teams you played.
Yeah. No, definitely I mean, it'd be hard for me not to say the most passionate fan base I've played in front of course.
Like, having home ice advantage, I think, is huge for you guys in this series.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? It's funny how it works. You play the first 3 series, you start the road, and then all of a sudden you get to the Cup Final, and I guess it's 2 teams that finish third in their division. And I don't know if we nudge them up by a couple of points, so we get home ice advantage, but we'll take it, obviously. It is an advantage when you have a crowd like ours, and you can make the argument if we had Game 7 here last year, is that a different story? So,
right.
How much does the ice matter at this time of year in June? Obviously, Florida's hot. I would think the ice is so good. Edmonton has the best ice on the planet. Does it still have the best ice? Like, does that have a little bit of advantage, having home ice and having the great ice to play on with, especially the guys that can fly around? Like,
it can. I mean, I didn't play in the regular season, so I haven't played in Florida for over a year now. But no matter what ice surface you're playing on, it gets snowy later in the period. It's hot. Believe it or not, the weather is beautiful here in Edmonton. It's almost 30 degrees. But
wow.
Yeah, I think just the electricity. When we came home last year when we were down 0-2, I know we lost Game 3 as well, but once the boys got rolling, even just winning that one game to make it 3-1, the city was electric, and I think that kind of propelled the group going into Game 5 to bring it back to Berta, as I think I'm said, to have a Game 6 and give our fans an opportunity to help us out and force a Game 7. And the one thing again I said at the beginning of the interview, you want to get off to a good start in a series like this. It's important. Both teams can win on the road. They've proven that in the playoffs. You can't relax because you're at home. You can't think, it's going to be easier because you're at home. We know what their mindset is because we know what our mindset's going to be going into their building. That's to win on their home ice, because if you can do that, you set yourself up for a good chance to win. So, Game 1 is really all we're focused on. We're excited, obviously. We want to use that energy and that momentum to our advantage and try to overwhelm them as much as we can. And, I think, what is it? Saturday today, it's a long way.
Yeah, again, sorry to jump in on your PLZ, but again, like, how hard is it having a week in between the conference finals and the finals? Is this a good thing that you guys can rest up? Because it's a long time to wait with energy just flowing through you with the excitement. So is this a good thing or a bad thing?
It's easier, I think, because we're starting at home.
Yeah.
I can be in my own house, I'm around my kids and family. We can use our days off a little bit more to our advantage. Like, I got a tea time later this afternoon.
Attaboy.
Play a little golf, right? So, you can relax a little bit and just kind of be normal for a couple of days. We'll practice tomorrow, kind of an optional day on Monday. And then, when Tuesday rolls around, full team practice, getting geared up and ready to go. So I think it's a little nicer starting at home and having that time in between. It makes it a little easier than it did last year, for sure.
You've got a good spouse, buddy. God, you got three little ones, right?
4. I got 4 now.
Four little ones, and he's playing golf this afternoon, JR. Like, but
I told her, I said, she's like, oh, you have the day off? I said, yeah, I'm playing golf this afternoon. Remember I told you? And she said, I don't really remember you telling me that. I said,
well, listen, that'll make for a harder summer for him, though.
It's nice to just clear your mind and relax and again, the game doesn't start till Wednesday at 6:00.
Right.
So I don't, you understand as you get older, you don't need to be sweating about it and worrying about it and focusing on it today. It's good to get away from things and and just, you know, be normal.
You're gonna be more nervous over a 4-foot putt today for $500 than you will be at opening puck drop on Wednesday. But
You're exactly right.
But are you playing with teammates today?
No, I'm actually playing with a couple of my buddies here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, what's it like, Kaner? Because I know how passionate, and we'll let you go here in a second. I know how passionate Canadian hockey fans are. What's it like for you and your wife and your family? Like for you to go out in public now, people just are they constantly coming up to you asking you for autographs and pictures? And like, what's a day like for Kaner in Edmonton right now?
Yeah, I mean, it honestly, ever since I got here, you know, in 2022 in February, fans have treated me great, and you know, really kind of bonded with the community in the city of Edmonton, and they've treated me so well, and showed me a lot of love, and obviously now being back in the final, you know, I went for dinner last night, and I was with a buddy, and we were just driving, and there was literally like a parade of like 100 vehicles with like decked out in Oilers flags and Stanley Cups and the whole 9 yards, like already going downtown. Like, so, you know, you can just, you see the emotion, you see the passion. It's definitely motivating. Not that we need any extra motivation, but it does give you a little extra. And, you know, for me, it's nice to be recognized. It's nice to, you know, be in the community, but, you know, at the same time, obviously, just like anybody else, you know, when you're with the kids or the family, you know, you do want a little bit of downtime.
Right.
But you know what? I think when you're a city like Edmonton, they've had it for so long. They've seen so many great players come through here for such long time. They've had a lot of success, and you know, they've been the city of champions, and we want to make them a city of champions again. And you know, they understand and have a good understanding of how to treat players that play for their city. Right. So you know, it's been great.
So this is the last question, really quick.
Yeah.
You don't have to go too long on it. And then we'll let you go. We appreciate you being here, buddy, so much. It's such a treat for us. We're such big fans of yours. But do you have your Rolls Royce all set up in Florida?
No. So quick, well, real quick. So I did it in Dallas. Game 1, right? I brought Brownie, so I don't know if that's why we lost or whatnot.
Yeah.
But so I gassed the Rolls for game 2. I said I'm getting back on the team bus on the road, and we won game 2. So then we won game 5. I was back on the team. So on the road right now, I'm staking with the bus.
Yeah,
guys were talking like, do I chop her in Florida? Like, do I take a chopper? So the Rolls is parked until further notice. We're sticking with the Lambo for game 1.
I love it.
Well, buddy, there is nobody that dresses sharp. I guarantee you, there will be nobody dressed sharper than you in the Stanley Cup Finals. But we got to give a shout out to, because JR and I are still waiting. We got to give a shout out to your Dovetail red wine. I need to try that sometime.
Yes,
I hear it's great, and congrats on that endeavor as well.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I will definitely.
Hey, buddy, thank you so much for coming on, man. Wish you the best of luck.
Thanks, guys.
It would look awesome to see you put that cup above your head, man. You of all people that we know, that we've seen in the career, you deserve it, my friend.
I appreciate it. I always appreciate you guys' support.
Thanks, buddy.
Awesome.
Love you, guys.
All right.
See you, pal.
See you, pal. Bye-bye.
Bye.
How good was that? Hey?
It's just such a great talker, great interview, gives you such good feedback, some good insight. He just made me more excited for this to go on.
I'm still amazed that he's playing golf today. He's got 4 kids at home.
You know, you got to do it. You got to do it. You know,
no,
good for his wife. Good for his wife saying, "Listen, this is your time. Do what you need to do." You know, I'm sure he's going to have daddy duties all summer. You know, his golf will probably take a back seat to daddy duties all summer. But right now, this is still his time, and you know, good for her for understanding that. And,
well,
you know,
and you and I, we have such a good and fond and good relationship with the Tkachuk family. And I love Walt and the boys and Chantel and Taryn so much. But I also, a lot of me wants to see Connor McDavid, the best player in the world. win a Stanley Cup. I think it would be good for
Yeah,
hockey.
it's that mixed bag, right? It's that
Right,
mixed bag.
like it would be good for hockey. This guy deserves to win a Stanley Cup. He's the best player in the world.
It's almost like I'm not rooting for anybody specifically, but you're right. For the game, to have Connor McDavid, to have Draisaitl win a cup, to have the cup go back to Canada after
Right.
22 years is, no, more than that, almost 30 years.
Almost 30 years, yeah.
32 years.
32 years, 92, right?
32 years.
32 years. Holy.
I mean, there's so many reasons why you would root for Edmonton. So, thanks to Kaner for coming on, and thanks for you for getting him on, buddy. That your relationship with him obviously is strong.
You know what? I've give him a lot of credit how he's matured from his days in Atlanta on up. You know what I mean? He's such a, like you talked about what an important player he is on that team. He played phenomenal in that last series. And I expect the same. I think it's going to get nasty, buddy. I think it's going to get nasty with Bennett and him and Ekblad and
this Polkadiovi, whatever his name is. That guy, we chat about him really quick. That guy, he gets in there. He chirps. He goes muscling in. He's going to be really amped up to play in this. I think this is his first year. He's a rookie in the game.
Yeah.
I don't know what his level of English is, but he's understanding how awesome it is playing the National Hockey League. Now he's going to be in the finals. I'm going to enjoy watching this guy play. But good job.
Good job, buddy. Have a great day
today. Yep, short little show today. I'm going to go take it easy today. I went on a nice hike. Going to go do a little shopping and go to my friend's 50th birthday party, and then have a great weekend.
Right. Love you, buddy.
Yeah, love you too. Thanks to Whiskey in the Wild, whiskeyinthewild.com for the best whiskey in the world, and Protected Net Guards. Thanks to my good friend Tim Peel. All you young kids out there can thank him for protecting you in the greatest game in the world. We'll see you next week, just before the first game of the Stanley Cup, maybe Wednesday or Tuesday. Keep your eyes peeled for Snipes and Stripes right here. See you guys next week. It's Stanley Cup Final time. Woo! See you, buddy.
See you, bud.